This is From Here to Eternity, the good news of the Apocalypse and the demise of the New World Order. The Marca da Besta and the New World Order. We are now in the parentheses after the seventh and last trumpet sounds, after the resurrection of the righteous saints, when his servants, the prophets, small and great, are raised and rewarded. Now he will destroy those destroyers of the earth. Now will come to pass what is referred to as the third woe, and this comes at the time of the seventh trumpet. But the third woe is the wrath of the Lamb, the wrath of the Almighty poured out upon the earth. But before that happens, we see the scene in heaven, as it tells us in the 19th verse of chapter 11, the temple of Yahweh was open in heaven. The Ark of the Covenant was once again seen in his temple. There was lightning, voices, thunder, and earthquake, and a great hail. And we go all the way to chapter 15, verse 5, and it again repeats the very same thing. What it sets in between is a parenthesis, and we saw at the close of our last episode, is that the first parenthesis is referring to the birth of Yeshua, the great sign in the heavens, that the dragon stood before the woman immediately to devour her child, but was unsuccessful, and then the man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, the Son of Man, the Messiah himself, the Son of the Most High, then is caught up before the throne in heaven. And then the next section where we are now is chapter 12, verse 6. This is the next parenthetical section. This is the war in the heavens. In verse 6, the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared by Yahweh so that they should feed her there 1,260 days. Again, we see this exact figure, 1,260 days, which is 42 months, which is a time times and a half a time, or 3.5 years. And we see that this is the very thing that it says the woman. Now, the first time when it talks about a woman clothed with the sun, it's talking about the constellation Betula, literally, and that upon the earth, the counterpart, or the prophetic counterpart of that, was Miriam. She was travailing in birth, about to be delivered, and she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations. Now we see the woman, as is speaking of here, fleeing into the wilderness, speaking of Israel itself. As Miriam was part of Israel, and the sign in the heavens was speaking of not only Israel, but a woman of Israel bringing forth the Messiah. Now we see the woman flees in the wilderness, where she has a place prepared for her for 1,260 days. And there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought. They did not prevail. They were attempting, Satan was attempting to continue to kateko, as it says in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, to hold fast to his position as accuser of the brethren before the throne, but they were unsuccessful, because we see that Michael and his angels take him out of the mesos, as it reads in 2 Corinthians chapter 2, and 6 times in the book of the Revelation. Mesos is the midst of the floor of the throne room of the Almighty, where Satan does have authority to accuse the brethren night and day. But it says now that they did not prevail in this war, and it's an upcoming war. Neither was their previous place recognized in heaven anymore. No more authority to do so. Satan has stripped his authority. Now, Michael's angels then war against him, and he cast him down, and it says in verse 9 that the great dragon was cast down. That old serpent called the devil and Hasatan, who deceives the whole world, he was cast down to the earth, and his angels were cast down with him. Then I heard a loud voice in heaven proclaiming, "Now is come salvation and strength in the kingdom of Yahweh and the power of his Messiah. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, whom accused them before our God day and night. And it says that the saints overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. So the saints take a stand on the earth when Satan is cast down. They don't love their lives unto the death, and so they're just going for broke. They're going for the eternal reward. And there's going to be a time that, that's it. It's just, ladies and gentlemen, it's almost time to set your hair on fire and run through the neighborhood naked. It's almost getting down to that, because you got to wake people up. You have to do whatever's necessary. That's why I do what I do the way I do it. The people that think, oh, he's too excited, whine, or he hollers too much or whatever, oh, go whine to somebody else. I really don't care, all right? I do care about eternal life, your eternal life. Somebody's got to wake you up. We're not playing religion here. Religion goes to hell. Religion is the broad path that leads to destruction. Religion, that's it. Religion is man's attempt at finding the way. Forget it. There's no way. Religion is the path to hell. You want to go directly to hell? Become a Muslim. Excellent idea. That's the path to hell. Become any religion. Become a Buddhist. Become anything. I mean, it's just nonsense. Man-made nonsense. The Messiah, Yeshua, is the Messiah. He is the prophet who shows us the path to life. You don't want to follow him? Fine, go to hell. Somebody's got to go. It might as well be you. These people didn't love their life to death. They weren't trying to be politically correct. They were throwing it right in the face of the New World Order, and they didn't give a flying snort in the wind. Then it says, verse 12, therefore rejoice. Rejoice, you who dwell in the heavens, but woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea. The devil has come down to you with great wrath because he knows he has but a short time. Now, this is a time of Satan's wrath. He is absolutely furious, and when he comes down, he inhabits completely the man of sin, the son of destruction, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God, so that he as God sits in the temple of God, proclaiming that he himself is God. That has not happened yet. The abomination of desolation has not happened yet. But this is a parenthesis showing what is going to happen. When this war in heaven takes place, at the time of the war upon earth and the destroyer is revealed, Satan knows he has but a short time. And so when the dragon realized that he was cast down and confined to the earth, he persecuted the woman who brought forth the man-child. But the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place prepared, where she is to be nourished for a time, times, and half a time, away from the face of the serpent. And so there is a provision for the woman. You know, Yeshua said, if you're in Jerusalem, get out immediately. Why? Because there's a place prepared. Where is it? I don't know. But who is able to lead us at that time? Yeshua. There's a place prepared for her. And it says then in verse 15, the serpent spewed out a flood of water out of his mouth after the woman, so that he might cause her to be swept away by the flood. But the earth helped the woman. And the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood, and which the dragon cast out of his mouth. Now, we see that water, sea, flood, a lot of times represents a great mass of humanity. And you can imagine that if Israel flees into the wilderness, that the armies of the New World Order are going to stop at nothing. But as we see them go out, cast a flood after her, that the earth swallows up the flood. It swallows up whatever it is that's sent after to destroy her. And that's the only way that you could possibly survive. Now, some would say that Petra is the place to hide. Now, in ancient times, before airplanes, yeah, you could get away with it, but with infrared and everything else, it doesn't make sense nowadays that Petra would be a place of protection. But then again, the Almighty is able to hide his people in plain sight, and the earth is able to swallow up anything that you send after them. And so it says in verse 17, so the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed that keeps the commandments of Yahovah, the remnant of her seed. We have to remember that Israel has been scattered all over the face of the earth. Even the smaller number, not the 10 tribes which have been scattered, but the area of Judea, those who lived in Judea, which later became known as Yehudim or Jews, those Israelites who became known as Jews, they've been scattered all over the world, but that's a much smaller number, and it was done at a much later time. And still today, we see that people are waking up all over the world and finding out that they have Jewish ancestry. Now, Jewish, or the Judeans, those of the lower tribes of Judea, as they're waking up and finding out, hey, we were scattered out, we have lost contact with our ancestors, they tried to hide who we were. Well, that's basically 2 tribes, and of course, a lot of the northern tribes did come down into Judea at different points in time, but the 10 northern tribes, see, the Almighty promised Abraham that his seed would become as the sand of the sea, innumerable. We see that China and India are both the same age as Israel. They've got over 1 billion people each. How many Israelites are there? They're the only ones who were promised that they would number more than the sands of the seas, more like you can't count the number of stars. That's what it would be like. And so now we see that, the dragon is going to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments. Number 1, this is the first category, keeping the commandments and then having the testimony of Yeshua Messiah. See, those who have a made-up Jesus, and which is a lot of churchianity today, they don't know anything about what he teaches. They don't read anything about what he says. They don't teach what he teaches. They just have this Jesus gospel. And it goes something like this, all you have to do is ask Jesus to come into your heart, or ask him to be your Savior, and all you have to do is ask, and he'll come into your heart, and then come to church. Do this repeated after me prayer. That's not what Yeshua taught. Has nothing to do with the gospel of the kingdom. This is something that we have made up in this day and time. Nothing to do whatsoever with the gospel of the kingdom. This is our own good news that we kind of concocted. But see, when you follow Yeshua, you are going to be keeping the commandments. Because once you have been redeemed, once he lives inside you, once the Spirit of the Holy One comes inside you and resides within you, you want to be obedient. You're by nature. Now, a natural man does not subject himself to the commandments of God. He wants nothing to do with them. But once a person is filled with the Spirit of the Holy One, he wants to do that which is right. It's his nature to want to obey the commandments. It's like, what can I do? I see what you've done for me. What can I do for you? That's a natural response of the supernatural indwelling of the Holy Spirit. And Satan is absolutely furious with those who keep the commandments and have the testimony of Yeshua Messiah, the real testimony, not some kind of made-up, concocted religious system, baby Jesus story. No. Are they following what Yeshua said to do? Are they keeping the commandments? Because if they speak not according to the Torah and the commandments, there is no light in them. There is no truth in them. Oh, excuse me, I'm quoting the New Testament. Okay. Well, and now we see that the devil is wroth. This is after this great war in heaven, and now he's cast down the earth. And how long does he have? A time, times and a half a time. He has 1,260 days. He has 42 months. He has 3.5 years to get the job done, and he wants to destroy everyone on the planet. Now again, this is a parenthesis. We have already gone through that period of time. The last trump happens on Yom Teruah at the end of this 3.5 year period of time where we are saved from the wrath to come, as Shaul eloquently says it by the word of Yahovah, that we will be saved or rescued from the wrath to come. That's the wrath of the Lamb, and this hasn't happened yet, ladies and gentlemen. The third woe has not kicked in. We've been rescued, we've been pulled out, now we have a parenthesis to show cause and effect, and we're on our way to the wrath being poured out upon the earth. Now, we move on to the next parentheses, or within the parentheses goes from 12:1 through 15:4, but now we are at 13:1. This is the beast government. Then I stood upon the sand of the sea and watched a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon its horns 10 crowns, and upon its heads was the name of blasphemy. Now today, when we talk about the name of blasphemy, the word blasphemy is insult. And the most probable candidate for the name of blasphemy, we will see as we read the entire context, is Allahu Akbar. Allah is greater. This is the ultimate insult against Yahovah, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Allah is a made-up, fictitious desert moon god who is worshipped by, desert wackos, basically, and it's even been brought down into modern day. It's like, didn't anyone think it through? I mean, like one guy, sitting out in a tent in a desert, writes all this stuff up and says he's the prophet? Oh yeah, right. Anyone who comes on the stage, it's a cult. This is the ultimate cult, a death cult that goes around and kills people all the time. Hundreds of thousands of Christians will die this year at the hands of this moon god cult. This is not to be respected. These people should have gotten a clue. It's like, does anyone teach logic in their world? Goodness gracious. So Muhammad is not a prophet. He was a pedophile. He was, by most accounts, epileptic. Something was wrong. His wires were crossed up here, and he's a pedophile, and he legitimized pedophilia. And that's why you have, all these little Syrian girls that are now homeless, now they're being married, these 6 and 8-year-old little girls, they're not being rescued, they're being married by pedophile Muslims in these other countries. And these little girls, the records are horrendous of them dying of internal bleeding because, an 8-year-old little girl is not supposed to be married to a 40-year-old man. Goodness gracious, talk about sick. This is the sickest religion that has ever been concocted in the sick, twisted mind of man. The most probable candidate for the name of blasphemy, Allahu Akbar. Now, we'll go on. Now, the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were like unto the feet of a bear, and his mouth was like unto the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave it his power and his throne and his great authority. And I see the dragon, when he gives his power and authority, he's cast down the earth, he has but a short time. You can imagine the debauchery that will ensue. And I saw one of its heads as it was wounded unto death, but its deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. Wait just a minute, ladies and gentlemen. I've heard that, we're talking about, a world leader who will have a head wound. He'll be shot like John Kennedy, and he'll come back to life. Ladies and gentlemen, people don't have 7 heads, all right? Governments are referred to as the beast government, and one of these heads of this beast government, and it's not an individual, it's the heads, it's the manifestations of this government has a wound as unto death. but its deadly wound was healed, and the world wondered after the beast. Now, I want to point out something here, that the beast mentioned here in the Revelation, lion, bear, leopard, and man, were the focal point of Daniel's prophetic vision concerning Babylon, Persia, Greece, and the Roman empires, which is detailed in Daniel chapter 7. The land masses of each of these ancient civilizations now comprise the nations of Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Turkey, Greece, Egypt, Arabia, and several other Middle Eastern countries that are now under full Islamic control. Remember, when Yohanan was writing this revelation, there was no such thing as Muslim wackos. There's no such, there's no person such as Muhammad, hadn't even made up this religion yet. But yet he is taken into the future in seeing this very thing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's go to Daniel chapter 7, a very instructive chapter. Here we see the predecessor of what we had read in a previous session in chapter 8, when it talks about this is the third year of the reign of Belshazzar, that Daniel saw a vision, and he says that it was after that which appeared to him at the first. Now, what is this appeared at the first? I didn't deal with it then, because now we can go back and see chapter 7, verse 1. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. So the first was the first year of the reign of Belshazzar. This is when Daniel had this previous revelation during this time. And verse 2, Daniel spoke and said, I saw my vision by night, and behold, 4 winds of heaven strove upon the great sea. Again, the same terminology in the book of the Revelation. Out of the sea, a beast arose. And it says that the 4 great beasts came out of the sea, diverse from one another. The first was like unto a lion, and had eagle's wings. I beheld until the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made to stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given unto it. This is Babylon, the Babylonian Empire. Then, and I beheld, verse 5, another beast, a second, like to a bear. And it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, and between the teeth of it, and they said thus unto that beast, like a bear, arise and devour much flesh. And so now we have the kingdoms of Media and Persia raised up on one side, the Persian Empire predominating. And then verse 6, and after this I beheld, and lo, another, like unto a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl, and the beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given unto it. And this is, as Daniel had a later prophetic vision of this, of a he-goat, which had 1 substantial, predominant horn that ran against and destroyed the ram of Media Persia, which had the 2 horns. And when it was strong, then the horn was broken, and for it up came 4 other horns. Here, it's a leopard and showing with 4 wings. Again, as the Grecian Empire, which took all the landmass from Macedonia to the Indus River down to Ethiopia, and it had 4 heads, Egypt, Assyria, Turkey, and Greece. And then, after this, I saw in the night visions, behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the other beasts before it, and it had 10 horns. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are seeing this manifestation of this beast in the book of the Revelation, now back here in the book of Daniel, and we are seeing that after Greece came up Rome. and the vestiges of the Roman Empire. And what we're going to do is take a short break now before we go into the history of what happened in the Roman Empire, where out of the 10 horns, then 3 were subdued and taken out of the mix. But then out of the Roman Empire comes up another empire, and that becomes the New World Order. We're going to take a break now, and this is where we give you an opportunity to join all of us in our completely focused assault on planet Earth through the media. As Yeshua said, this gospel of the kingdom, the one he was teaching, must be preached in all the world for a witness. This is our commission. This is what he sent his apostles out to do, his disciples, and the commission continues on to this day. It wasn't just theirs, it's ours. And we have eternal reward for what we do. We're asking you to get under and shoulder the load with us, ladies and gentlemen. We are shouldering the load. There are many in the Ambassador Club who are standing with us. We need some serious help to get this out. We have some major projects that need to be done, and we're calling upon you because we need some serious help. We want to be on the air all over this country and other countries, and we need your help. We need serious help at this point. Please stand with us. We'll give you a few moments. The most vicious beast, which subdued all other kingdoms, it says had 10 horns. In verse 8 of Daniel chapter 7, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up. And we see that in the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, that by 476 AD, we had out of the Roman Empire the Lombards, which is Italy, the Franks, which is France, the Burgundians, which is Switzerland, the Suevi, which is Portugal, the Alemanni, which is Germany, the Anglo-Saxons, which is Britain, the Visigoths, which is Spain, the Ostrogoths, the Heruli, and the Vandals. All 10 of these nations, of these people groups, were subdued by the Roman Empire, and they are all part of the Roman Empire. But then the Pope and Emperor Justinian was the one who completely destroyed and obliterated the Ostrogoths, the Heruli, and the Vandals. And so of the first 10, these 3 were plucked up by an act of the Holy Roman Empire, who completely obliterated these people. And as I mentioned before, that the Holy Roman Empire was responsible for the murder of over 60 million people. And that is a conservative estimate, ladies and gentlemen. The most bloody empire in the history of planet Earth. And we're going to see, let's see if this fits, because we're just looking at history. We're looking at these things to see if they fit. And it says I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were the eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. I beheld until thrones, the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like unto pure wool. His throne was like a fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands of thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him, and the judgment was set, and the books were opened. So Daniel's incredible vision here shows that the end of this Roman Empire, which is still going on today, ladies and gentlemen. If you take a look at the makeup of America, the melting pot, where did all these people come from? Until just recently, out of the Roman Empire, all to the United States of America. And so the end of this is that the Almighty is going to rule over. There is nothing that is going to keep his empire from completely consuming and dominating the earth. And then in verse 11, I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake, I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body was destroyed and given to the burning flame. As concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. And I saw in the night visions, behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him, and there was given to him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and language should serve him. And his dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom shall not be destroyed. And that is speaking of the kingdom of the Messiah. This is the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven. And this is what the rabbis recognize. This is referring to the Messiah, who will rule over all the earth. And Daniel said that he was grieved in his spirit and in the midst of his body. And the visions of my head troubled me. And so he's asking for some clarity on all this. In verse 7 it says, these great beasts, which are 4 kings, which shall arise out of the earth, but the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. And then he wanted to know more about this 4th beast, who was exceeding dreadful in verse 19, whose teeth were of iron, nails of brass, who devoured and broke in pieces and stamped the residue of his feet. And of the 10 horns, verse 20, that were in his hand. And of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even that horn which had eyes and a mouth which spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. And I beheld, and that same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. So we are seeing that a revival out of this, what was the Roman world and everything that they covered, and they covered all of these areas, again, which are now dominated by Muslim religious fanatics. And now we see that this is sweeping over Europe. As Muammar Gaddafi said, we don't need to take Europe by force. In 50 years, we will overpopulate. We will own Europe. And now in the United States of America, a country where you can't have a manger scene in public anymore, they're stopping traffic in downtown New York while Muslims get out and completely cover the streets and bow down to a fictitious moon god as they, put their butts in the air facing Mecca. Okay? It's sweeping America. We have the President of the United States who says that Christians and Muslims and Jews worship the same God. Talk about clueless. This is a real pawn of the New World Order. Anyone that is so absolutely clueless, he doesn't even know what the leaders of his own religion are saying. The leaders of his own religion, of course he says he's a Christian because he's learned much from the historical Jesus. If I said I'm a Christian because I've learned much from the historical Jesus, you would throw me out as a complete heretic. But the President of the United States says that, he must be a Christian because he's learned much from the historical Jesus. That's exactly how a Muslim would say it, people. I mean, let's hear his real testimony of conversion. Let's see how Yeshua has really changed his life and set his heart on fire and getting the gospel of the kingdom. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, this guy doesn't have a clue what the gospel of the kingdom is. Why, he sat in the pew with Jeremiah Wright, one of the most clueless people I've ever had the insult of my intelligence listening to. He sat there and listened to this guy. I wouldn't sit there for 15 minutes. The guy's a complete biblical illiterate. But yet, he sat there and listened to it. Ladies and gentlemen, this thing is ripe for the picking. Because out of the United Nations, which is developed in the United States, is where is coming the New World Order that is unleashing the Muslim hordes all over the planet. I don't know, this may be my last broadcast. You never know when they're going to pull the plug on us, okay? You never know. But at least we once had freedom of speech in America, okay? We once did. It used to be protected, but they come after you in every possible avenue to shut you up because, they've got the big guns. Just ask David Koresh. I'm sorry, he's in the grave along with about 100 other people who spoke out against some of these things. Plus, he spoke out a lot of other nutty things. But here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we're gonna halt here because we're gonna be later, deeper in the Revelation, we're gonna see some more detail. Now we're in verse 4, the beast government. Verse 4, the world worshiped the dragon, which gave power to the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with it? And there was given to it, the beast, a mouth speaking great things and blasphemy. We read that in the 7th chapter of Daniel. And power was given to the beast to continue 42 months. He opened his mouth in blasphemy, in insult against Jehovah. That's what I forgot. Allahu Akbar is. It's a blasphemy against Jehovah, to blaspheme his holy name and his tabernacle and those who dwell in heaven. He was given the power to make war with the saints and to overcome them. Power was given him over all families and tongues and nations. All those who dwell upon the earth shall worship him. That is, all those whose names are not written in the scroll of life by the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Now, we're going to continue on, ladies and gentlemen. Right now we go into the mark of the beast. Verse 13, verse 9, chapter 13:9. If any man has an ear, let him hear. He who leads into captivity shall go into captivity. He who kills with a sword shall be killed with a sword. Here's the enduring patience and faith of the saints. Just understand that if you decide to take up an arm against the New World Order, it doesn't matter if they have to nuke your house. They will do whatever it takes to kill you. If you live by the sword, you are going to be butchered by them. Okay? But he who leads into captivity is going to go into captivity as well. There is going to be justice in the end. Verse 11, then I saw another beast coming out of the earth. He had 2 horns like a lamb, but he spoke like a dragon. He exercised all the authority of the first beast who came before him, and he caused the earth and all those who dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. See, it's a government whose deadly wound was healed. And out of the ashes, the phoenix of this, comes forth the New World Order, the Novus Ordo Seclorum. After the destruction of all ordered governments, out of the ashes arises the New World Order. It says that he did great wonders and made fire to come down from heaven onto the earth in the sight of all men. He deceived all those who dwell on earth by means of the miracles which he had the power to do under the authority of the beast. He instructed all those who dwell on the earth to make an image of the beast, which had a wound by the sword and yet lived. And then verse 15, the dragon lamb, as I've coined the phrase, dragon lamb, because he spoke like he was a lamb, but he spoke like a dragon. The dragon lamb had the power to give life to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast could both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. In verse 16, and the dragon lamb caused all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark on their right hand or in their forehead, so that no man might buy or sell except those who have the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here's wisdom. Let him who has understanding decipher the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is Chi Sigma. It's the number of man, the number or mark, or the name of the beast is written in the ancient Greek text of the book of the Revelation as 3 characters, Chi, Xi, and Sigma, not as the number 666, which is hexakosai, hexakonta, and hex. Hexakosai, hexakonta, hex is 666, but that's not how it's written in the ancient text. It's written in Greek characters, which you'll now look at on your screen. Chi, Xi, and Sigma. Now, now John is looking at this, and the linguistic evidence is very strong that Yohanan wrote his revelation in the Hebrew language. Yet the Greek language has been embedded in the Galilee region for hundreds of years, and these characters would not have been unfamiliar to him. He's seeing something, but presuming that Yohanan saw these 3 Greek characters in the vision, we can simply rotate them 90 degrees. As you see in your screen now, rotating them 90 degrees to see their preeminence in these very figures in the modern Islamic basmalah. The basmalah is by far the most prolific artistic expression observed throughout the Muslim world. The basmalah is the artistic symbol which bears the acronym, and this is the acronym, in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Okay, first of all, that is an insult. Allah is fictitious. He is not most gracious because Yahovah is most gracious. Yahovah is most merciful. This is an absolute insult against the one true God. But John doesn't see Arabic. He sees these figures, and these are the figures that you see in this basmalah. The key, the key, which is now on its side, now you see the X. Now you see the Kasi, which on its side looks like what we would think in a script W, but that is the representation of in the name of Allah. This squiggle, all you have to do is scrunch it together, and you have that very same image on the ring worn by a very famous figure in America today. You just bring that all together in an artistic representation, and that's what you've got. Today, this name of insult against the one true God is worn on the headbands and on the right arms of Islamic Jihad holy war terrorists. as well as on the uniformed soldiers of Muslim armies who are sworn to the destruction of the nation Israel, the extermination of the Jewish people, and the slaughter of the Christians as well. See, John is seeing things in the future. And have we not arrived at the time or near the time where we are seeing these things play out? Now, there's also another very strong possibility here that everything that is sold in bookstores must have on it, including the mystery of iniquity, sold in Christian bookstores all over the world. And a lot of the information that I'm sharing with you is in the mystery of iniquity. If you want to review, this is the book to get. This is the mystery of iniquity. This details the legal prerequisites to the return of the Messiah. And on the back of it, we have a UPC code. The computers read this UPC code. It has 3 sets of thin lines at the beginning, in the middle, and the end. There is a shorter version of the UPC where it has 2 sets of long lines at the beginning and 1 at the end. And why is this? Because the code reader sees these lines, and you can check it out, because anything over on this side, on the far right side, when you see the number 6, you'll see that it is 2 thin lines separated by a medium space. The reader reads that as a 6. It also reads the beginning number as a 6, the middle as a 6, and the end as a 6. When you have those 3 numbers in place, 666, when it can read all 3 6s, then it knows it has the entire code. That's why if it's a short version with 2 6s together, it still sees 666. So it reads this as a code. And so you cannot buy or sell in the marketplace now without this mark being on all merchandise that is sold. Now, what are we missing? We're missing the other part of it, which would be a mark on the right hand or in the forehead that would be your personal reader code. That then we could go to a completely cashless society because, first of all, we are off the gold standard. There's no such thing as a gold standard because the world bankers have all the gold, and billions were looted from the World Trade Centers. And that was the last major gold heist, and the biggest one, as far as we know of, in the history of planet Earth, was taking the World Trade Centers down, and they got just about all the gold out of there before it happened. I think their timing was just a little bit off, and one of the trucks and several of the escape vehicles that was used apparently in the looting, as we get the information, was trapped down in the building. And so, but the biggest gold heist, all the gold is in the hands of someone else. I don't think there's anything left at Fort Knox to guard there, except the secret that there's probably not anything there, because we're completely off the gold standard. We're on the Federal Reserve System. Federal Reserve is not anything to do with the federal government. It has to do with the world bankers. It's a private enterprise, and this we documented fully in our earlier sessions. But it is this very thing that would lead to a completely cashless society when they deliberately trash and crash every monetary system on the planet, because everything is off the gold standard at this point. But I'll tell you, there's going to be a fight to the finish for who really runs the New World Order when it all comes down. We've got China, we've got Rome, we've got the United Nations. We've got them all in play, and it is going to be one bloody mess. Now, we're going to go to one more section right here. And this is the 144,000, the first fruits before the throne. Remember, we are in a parentheses here. The last time we saw the 144,000 is just at the time that they are being sealed, and that is before stripping the seventh seals, between the sixth and the seventh seal. And now, right after the seventh trumpet sounds and before the mayhem begins with the wrath of the Almighty, we see the 144,000, the first fruits before the throne. Chapter 14, verse 1, I looked and I saw a lamb standing on Mount Zion. And with him were, who's this lamb standing on Mount Zion? Well, we know. And with them were 144,000 having his father's name written on their foreheads. What's the father's name? Yehovah, Yod-He-Vav-He. Not old, what's his name, Hashem. Not, not Lord. It's Yod-He-Vav-He. That's what's written on their foreheads. And most of the Christian world doesn't even know what his name is. Most of the people in the Jewish world don't know what his name is anymore. They call him Adonai, or old what's his name, Hashem. That's what it means, the name, or old what's his name. No, the reason he brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand is so that the entire world would know that his name is Yod-He-Vav-He, Yehovah. And these 144,000 have the Father's name written on their foreheads. And I heard a voice from heaven like the sound of roaring oceans and like the sound of deafening thunder. And I heard the sound of harpers harping with their harps. And they sang a new song before the throne and before the four beasts and the elders, but no one could learn the song except for the 144,000 who were redeemed from the earth. And when were they redeemed from the earth? At the sounding of the seventh trumpet. These are the ones who were not defiled with women, not defiled with women. They were not prostituted to the world system. It's not that women defile men, not in marriage, for they kept themselves as virgins. And after marriage, the marriage bed is undefiled. They are the ones who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. They were redeemed out from among men, being the first fruits to Yehovah and to the Lamb. In their mouth was found no guile, and they are without fault. These are the ones who kept themselves pure from forbidden sexual activity, or erva matters, as it reads in the Torah. And when a man and a woman are married in the state of virginity, there's no defilement. The marriage bed is undefiled. And, it's clear. This is the way the Creator made it. This passage in no way implies that marriage is forbidden for those who are among the chosen and sealed 144,000. It simply means that they were not defiled by inappropriate sexual activity while they were unmarried and remained faithful to their spouses afterwards. In a spiritual sense, however, they are not contaminated by the Babylonian religious, economic, and political systems, which Yohanan described as a whore. So, Babylon's judgment is now going to be declared, and we're going to have to pick this up next time. And I'd like to close with prayer. Abba, Father, thank you for covering us. Thank you for choosing us. Thank you for illuminating your word to us. Bring us under the shadow of your wings. Teach us and keep us close in your hand. Protect us in the time of trouble ahead. Keep our backbone straight and strong to speak forth the truth of your word. And may we call many to righteousness and turn many to righteousness so they can shine like the stars forever and ever. In Yeshua's name, amen. Shabbat shalom to our fans. Lahitrot. We'll see you later. And make sure that you have a good week. Shavua tov. Bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, it takes an extreme amount of energy, time, and money to make these broadcasts available, these teachings available to you and to those around the world. And we really need you to seriously stand with us on this very project that Yeshua put us on, to take the gospel of the kingdom that he taught to the entire world in the last days. The opportunity is there. With more than 30 people on staff just here in the United States to make these things available, it takes a lot of money. an unbelievable amount of money, a scary amount of money to give this stuff away free around the world. And if you have been blessed by these teachings, then I'm asking you to stand with us, to financially support this ministry. Tithe into these modern day Levites who are getting the gospel of the kingdom out to the world. Now, I know that we're all Kohanim, we're all priests, but the Levites are the ones that skin the animals, that clean up the mess, that have to do the hard work. And if you appreciate the work that we're doing and reaching out to you around the world, please stand with us and stand with us today. Thank you.